Get out of my house. This is my house. You're a trespasser, a squatter. I'm calling the police. My own daughter had me evicted, so I did the one thing she never saw coming. I picked up the phone, and I sold her entire life out from under her. And when the eviction notice arrived with my name on it, her scream was the best thing I've ever heard. It was the kind of Saturday afternoon California is known for. Warm sunlight draped over freshly cut lawns, the hum of conversation rising above the soft clinks of wine glasses, laughter spilling out into the street like music from an open window. My daughter, Katie, had invited her usual crowd, colleagues from her firm in San Francisco, a few of her husband Tom's golf buddies from the country club, some local women from her neighborhood fitness group. And me, Evelyn Collins, I stayed where I always stayed, just beyond the glow, in the kitchen. I pulled a tray of still warm shortbread cookies from the oven, my mother's recipe. I carried them out to the patio with the same careful grace I'd learned as a young bride. The backyard was buzzing. Katie stood at the center, cocktail in hand, laughing a little too loud, gesturing a little too wide. I caught Tom's eye. He gave a polite, empty smile, then looked away. "Cookies, everyone?" I said softly. One woman bit into one and murmured, "Divine." That's when Katie chuckled, a sound that didn't match her eyes. "Oh, she just kind of stays here," she said, waving a hand at me like I was a piece of furniture, a parasite. The laughter that followed wasn't cruel, just uncomfortable, nervous, but it landed like a slap. I didn't say a word. I just stood there holding that tray, pretending my hands weren't shaking. Tom avoided my gaze. No one corrected her. No one asked her to stop. I spent the rest of the evening in silence, collecting empty glasses, scraping plates, rinsing dishes. No one would thank me for washing. By the time the last guest left, I was wiping the granite countertop until it shone. Tom passed behind me, mumbled a half-hearted, "Thanks, Evelyn," and disappeared. Not Mum, not even mother-in-law, just Evelyn. 3 days later, I was alone in the kitchen again. Reaching for a mug, I clumsily brushed a glass off the drying rack. It shattered on the tile floor with a sharp, echoing crash. "Damn it," I whispered, bending down to pick up the shards. I didn't even hear Katie enter. "What did you do now?" she barked. "I'm so sorry, She held up a hand to stop me. "You should know your place," she said, her voice tight. "Don't think you have a right to be here." I looked up at her, pieces of glass still in my hand. "I'm your mother." "Lord, no," she snapped. "You think just because you're old, you're entitled? You think living here is some kind of reward for being passive-aggressive and cleaning up crumbs?" "I didn't mean." "I swear to God," she hissed, pulling her phone from her back pocket. "If you don't get out of this house, I'll call the cops." I froze. Katie had always been sharp, rude even, but this was different. "Get out, now, or I swear." I thought she was bluffing until I saw her thumb tap the screen, heard the dial tone, watched her press the phone to her ear. "Hello? Yes," she said, her voice chillingly calm. "I need to file a trespassing report." I didn't hear the rest. I walked past her out the back door into the garden where my rosemary and daisies still bloomed. This garden had been mine. The soil under my nails, the seeds I planted. It was the only place in that house that still felt like me. And in that moment, standing barefoot on the patio, surrounded by everything I had grown, I understood. Katie didn't see me as a mother, not anymore. She saw me as an obstacle, an embarrassment, a burden to be removed. And for the first time since my husband, Robert, died, I didn't feel old, I didn't feel tired. I felt awake, cold and awake. This wasn't my home anymore, but it was still my house. And now I was going to act like it. It was the spring of 1983 when Robert and I first stepped into that old Victorian fixer-upper on a quiet street in Palo Alto. The paint was peeling, the floors creaked, but to us, it was a castle. We'd been married 16 years. 16 years of clocking in early, clocking out late, saving every dime. We didn't honeymoon in Paris. We honeymooned in a borrowed cabin up in Tahoe, cooked canned chili on a portable stove. That was our style. No extravagance. Just effort. Robert ran his hand across the banister that day and grinned. "It's got good bones," he said. "Like us. We bought it, that tired house, and we made it our home. Katie, just 6 years old, danced barefoot across the drop cloths while we painted. That house watched us become a family. It watched Robert get sick. We turned the downstairs den into a bedroom for him. He passed away quietly one morning in that room, sunlight streaming through the blinds. I stayed another 5 years after that. Every creak, every corner carried his voice. But grief hollows you out. In 2011, Katie suggested I move in with her and Tom. "It'll be better for both of us," she said. "You won't be alone anymore. Loneliness is a tricky thing. It can make even ghosts feel like company." So I agreed. I packed up my life, handed the keys to a property manager to rent the house out for income, and moved into their guest room. At first it was pleasant, but over time the lines blurred. She started reorganizing my things. Then came the rules. No garlic, no TV past 10, no guests. My garden pots on the patio were cluttered. I complied. I always complied. But something inside me started to shift. What Katie didn't know, what she never thought to ask, was that the old house, the one Robert and I bought and built a life in, it still belonged to me. The title, the deed, every inch of wood and tile. I kept the documents in a locked drawer because something in me, even then, didn't fully trust the comfort she offered. Maybe it was a mother's instinct. Maybe it was just knowing that some things, like home, shouldn't be handed over too easily. And as I sat in that small guest room, remembering Robert's smile, the smell of paint, and our daughter's giggles, I realized I had given enough. Now, if you've ever been made to feel like a burden in your own family, if you've ever swallowed your pride to keep the peace, you need to listen to what happened next. And trust me, you do not want to miss the ending. Subscribe right now, because what I did next, well, let's just say you'll want to know how to protect yourself if this ever happens to you. Don't be the last to know. Hit that button. Katie's husband, Tom, his silence became a shelter for her cruelty. I heard them talking one night. She called me emotional clutter. That's what I'd become to her. Not a mother, a pile of dusty junk in the corner. The final straw was at a dinner with Tom's friends. I'd cooked a roast chicken from scratch. One of the men joked, "This is amazing, Katie. Did you cook it?" She laughed without missing a beat. "Oh God, no, that's our resident freeloader's work." Resident freeloader, that's what she called me. In the house that Robert and I built from pennies and hope. I didn't sleep that night. I sat in bed and stared at the ceiling, hearing every word she'd ever said stack themselves into walls between us. But she forgot something. The woman she called a freeloader still had the deed. She came to me one afternoon, all business. "Mom, I need a favor. Just paperwork. It's about the house. It would just make things easier if it were in my name. For tax purposes." I looked her square in the eyes. No. She was stunned. No, Katie. That house is the only thing your father and I built together. I'm not signing it away. A week later, I got a call from my bank. Questions about a mortgage application. That's how I learned Katie had tried to secure a home equity line of credit using my house, with forged documents that listed her as the owner. I confronted her. "I know what you did. You tried to steal this house." She leaned against the counter, sipping her water. "You don't contribute. All you do is occupy space." "I take care of this house," I said. "I cook, I clean, You exist," she interrupted. "You live here because we let you. And if you won't cooperate, then maybe you shouldn't be here at all." She stepped closer. "You have 1 week to leave, or I will call the police and tell them you're trespassing." That was the moment. She mistook my silence for surrender, but she forgot. I wasn't the one trespassing. I was the one who owned the land beneath her feet. That night, I packed my suitcase, the essentials, the marriage certificate, Robert's death certificate, and the title deed. I wrote a note. "Katie, I don't hate you, but I'm done begging for space in a home I paid for with my life." I left it under a teapot she always ignored, and I walked out the back door for the last time. I checked into a motel off the 101, clean, no frills, and I made a call. Walter Brenner, retired attorney, Robert's best friend since high school. "Walter," I said, "I need to talk." He didn't ask why. He just said, 10 a.m., my place. We sat at his kitchen table in his San Jose bungalow. I laid it all out. The deed, the original purchase contract, the forged papers. "She can't legally do a thing, Evelyn," Walter muttered. "This house is yours, every inch." "I want to sell it," I said, "as soon as possible." He just nodded. "I'll draw up the necessary protections. You'll need a realtor." "I already have someone in mind." I went straight to a small real estate office. Jessica Tran, Realty. Jessica was the daughter of a woman I'd worked with at the library. bright-eyed, sharp. "I want it listed this week," I told her. "No delays, no open houses, just show it privately to serious buyers only." She understood. By that evening, the listing was live. 3 high-resolution photos, a concise description, ownership since 1983. By 10 a.m. the next morning, her phone was buzzing non-stop. By 4 p.m., there were 3 offers on the table, all full price or higher. I chose the third offer, a divorced woman named Sophia. All cash. She spoke to Jessica with a voice I recognized, tired, kind, and firm. I reviewed the contract in my motel room. My hands were steady. I clicked sign. It was done. By sunset, the house was no longer mine, but it was no longer hers either. The next morning, a courier arrived at Katie's door with a certified envelope. Inside was the legal transfer of ownership, signed, notarized, irrevocable. The property now belonged to Sophia Westfield, effective immediately. Accompanying it was a formal notice of tenancy termination, 7 days to vacate. The envelope bore my name in the sender line, not Mom, not Evelyn, E. M. Collins. I imagine Katie stood there for a while rereading the pages, searching for a loophole, but there wasn't one. By noon she was calling Jessica, pretending to be the homeowner, trying to dispute the sale. Jessica simply replied, "All documentation is verified and filed with Santa Clara County Records. Ms. Collins is the sole legal owner. This conversation is over." Then she called me. 8 times. She left one message. "Mom, what are you doing? You can't sell this house. We live here. Are you losing your mind? Call me back. This isn't funny." We. She never said you. By dinner time, my phone had rung 24 times. I didn't pick up once. The neighbors noticed. The whispers began. "Is that the daughter getting kicked out? Imagine being thrown out of your own mother's house." She packed slowly, hoping for a miracle, but no miracle came, just silence, and a moving truck she had to pay for herself. When she finally wheeled her expensive suitcases down the porch steps, Tom was there. She tried to hand him a bag. He stepped back. "I'm going to my mother's," he said flatly. He got in his car and drove off. She stood there alone on the curb with 2 suitcases and a phone no one answered. That night, around 9 p.m., I heard a knock at the security gate of my new apartment, a high-rise in downtown San Francisco. The city glowed beyond my windows. I checked the monitor. It was Katie. Her makeup was smudged. Her eyes were red and puffy. She buzzed again. Then she knelt on the sidewalk outside the gate. She looked up at the camera. "Mom," she whispered, her voice cracking. "I'm sorry. Please, just let me in. Just for a little while. I have nowhere to go." The intercom was silent. I watched for a moment. Then I stood. I walked to my window, looked out at the beautiful, glittering city that was now my home. I sipped my mint tea, Robert's favorite, and I pulled the curtain closed. I didn't do it with anger, just certainty. She had taught me a lesson I never wanted to learn. That even the ones you love most can cross a line, and sometimes you don't go back. If you've ever been betrayed by the very person you gave life to, if you've ever stood in a room you paid for only to be treated like you didn't belong, then you understand. Silence is not weakness, it is memory, sharpening its blade. I used to think loyalty meant staying quiet. I forgave again and again, because mothers forgive, until one day we don't. Now I sit by my window, my mint plants grow on the balcony. The city hums below me, and I hum right back. The phone still rings sometimes. It's Katie, it's ghosts. But I don't answer anymore, because I'm not the woman who begged for kindness. I'm the woman who remembered what she was owed and collected it. If this story found a place in your heart, if you know someone who needs to see that it's never too late to reclaim your power, do not scroll away. Subscribe to this channel. We are a community of survivors here. We tell the truths that families try to hide. Click that subscribe button right now. Protect your peace. Protect your story. Let us be your voice. And for those of you watching who still haven't subscribed, what are you waiting for? A handwritten invitation? Life is too short to miss out on justice this satisfying. If you can't be bothered to hit a button, maybe you deserve to be left in the dark. But I have a feeling you're smarter than that. So subscribe. Now, justice doesn't need to shout. It just needs to remember. And here, we remember. So loudly, so clearly, the world has no choice but to listen. Because in this place, silence is a kind of justice. And justice? Well, she wears pearls and drinks her tea slow.